Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. It is a beautiful day in Rhode Island. It's a good day to go get vaccinated. That's how good a day it is. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, run out and do it. And if you haven't seen Go Local yet this morning, check out. There is an overview of Mayor Elorza budget proposal as he introduced it last night, and it's got all the details on that. And it compares it to some of the language that he's used in previous budgetary discussions. The big question is what's going to be done on the pension obligation. Also, we'll have updates on a major grant given to Brown University for their Alzheimer's research, and we'll have much more this afternoon. Let's go to Larry Warner at United Way. United Way's got a big announcement. Larry, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, so big announcement, big money, $4.5 million. Talk about where that money is going and what the initiative is all about.
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this announcement. United Way of Rhode Island has committed $4.5 million for the next 2 years, over the next 2 years annually, to support nonprofits that are engaged in work that helps to advance racial equity and building opportunities for communities of color across the state. Addressing systemic barriers to opportunity and really moving the needle in the areas that we've outlined under our new strategic plan, Live United 2025, which seeks to increase economic mobility for households and families, to increase educational outcomes, and to increase access to safe and affordable housing, and to increase civic engagement and to strengthen the nonprofit sector. And so we're really excited about the work, the awards, the applications that were submitted, and the opportunity to partner with the nonprofit agencies throughout the state.
Larry, listen, it's like the world woke up after George Floyd was murdered. And we can use the word murdered now that Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted. That announcement last week by the jury. What's taken us so long to kind of get at these issues? Affordable housing, we've been having this discussion for a long time. This issue is getting tougher and tougher in Rhode Island as housing prices absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah, definitely an issue that has been a challenge for Rhode Island for a number of years, and we're fortunate for the data that's available to inform our work and our policies and programmatic investments. And we know that it requires a sustained effort, sustained investment. And so we're grateful for the organizations in the community, the advocates, the legislators and policymakers who are constantly at the helm of advancing access, increasing access and addressing policies that create barriers or perpetuate barriers. We're grateful for the opportunity to, in addition to making programmatic investments, to advance policy work which seeks to achieve gains in those areas as well. And so the signing of the source of income discrimination bill, or the law that now prohibits source of income discrimination, is a huge step to reducing a barrier to safe and affordable housing for people who have a legal source of income. And that's one step in achieving that, progress in that area. But investments in organizations that are addressing other systemic barriers and working with the community and advocating for tenants' rights, those are additional areas of work to be pursued as well.
Yeah, and quickly, obviously, when we're seeing nearly 20% increases in the median household price of a single-family home year after year, we're not seeing 20% increases in the median household income in the state, and that spread becomes deeper and deeper. Larry, let's talk about who received some of the grants.
Sure. We received a wide variety of applications from organizations, and we prioritized those who are positioned to address systemic barriers and that prioritized racial equity. And so some of the organizations range from out-of-school time learning programs, such as a leadership journey, to literacy programs such as Books Are Wings, out-of-school time programs, again, like Boys and Girls Club of Northern Rhode Island, organizations that are engaged in advocacy such as DARE, Direct Action for Rights and Equality, Coyote RI, Economic Progress Institute, Fuerza Laboral, which is based in Central Falls, but also working closely with employee rights and advancing workforce opportunities. And so we're excited about the organizations, large and small, BIPOC-led, Black, Indigenous, and people of color-led organizations, as well as some of the familiar organizations that are connected to the community and to the work and to advancing racial equity. And so we're excited about these investments.
And and what was the need? How much in requests did you receive versus how much you were able to get out on the streets to groups across Rhode Island?
We received 163 applications in total, requesting over $10 million per year. And it was a tough process, which we were grateful for the partnership with volunteer members of our Community Investment Committee and Community Advisory Board, as well as the staff and experts that we have within the United Way team to vet the applications and to prioritize the organizations that were either already connected to the community and engaged in this work, or that were well positioned and had strong proposals to implement new programs or initiatives. And so those were some of the things that we implemented in order to accomplish this grant-making process. I also want to highlight that we had set out with a goal of awarding $2 million in grants. And we're grateful for after we had announced the funding opportunity for the gift from Mackenzie Scott of $10 million, which helped to jumpstart our goal of $100 million worth of impact into the community over the next 5 years. And so we were able to increase the number of awards that we beyond what we had originally planned. And so that's how we arrived at the $4.5 million for this round of funding per year for the next 2 years.
She of course, is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, and in their divorce, realized, he reported, I believe it's $70 billion. He has not suffered. I believe he is either the richest or the second richest man in the world, somewhere around $115 billion. So he recouped whatever was divided during the course of that divorce and has done just fine accordingly. Have we reached out to Jeff and asked him if he wanted to help out here in Rhode Island?
I can't speak to that. We would welcome any additional philanthropy from Jeff Bezos or Mackenzie Scott or others who are looking to support equity in Rhode Island. And that's one of the goals of United Way of Rhode Island is to position ourselves to be the conduit for impactful investments, especially in achieving equity consistent with our goals. And so to the extent that we were able to showcase our readiness to continue our partnership with the community through this grant-making effort and through our policy and advocacy work, through our research and data analytics, through our 211 call center. United Way is uniquely positioned in a number of different ways. And so we're excited about the opportunity to leverage the resources of philanthropic funders in addition to the resources that we already receive from the generous donors across Rhode Island.
Well, I just want to put it this way. If you reach out to Jeff, point out that I know at least one household in Rhode Island that has spent about that amount of money during the course of the pandemic with Amazon Prime and getting deliveries from Whole Foods. So we'd just be getting back the money that I've spent during the course of the pandemic. Larry, let's shift over. You got $10 million of requests. You were able to up a $2 million grant fund to $4.5 million. How do we address this gap? I mean, these gaps are whether it's income versus housing price versus need of valid nonprofits versus amount of funding that they can track down. How do we close these gaps?
That's a great question, and I have a two-part response. And one is that philanthropic dollars are never enough, and we always do our best to identify the strongest and most well-positioned proposals and support the organizations that are in place to do the work. But we really have to get at the root causes of the issues and the disparities that we're seeing in our state. And so by investing in initiatives and programs and organizations that are addressing systemic barriers, systemic racism, those are the things that have, for decades and centuries, have intentionally created barriers and resulted in disparities. And so unless we get at the root causes and address systemic racism and level the playing field and provide the right investments and opportunities for communities that have been held back by these systemic barriers, we'll never achieve the optimal outcomes that our communities are absolutely entitled to. And so one is not chasing the fires and putting them out issue by issue, but getting at the root cause and going deep as opposed to wide, as we've attempted to do through our strategic plan and these investments. The second thing is that we're hoping to model how and what philanthropy should look like. And so we've truly done our best to adopt principles of trust-based philanthropy and providing multiple year commitments and unrestricted dollars, and not cutting short the requests that have been submitted to us. So this is the first time that I can say that we've fully funded every request that we had approved, and so we didn't reduce any or provide partial funding for any of the grants that were awarded. If someone asks me to make a pizza with a pound of dough and a cup of water, and I only get half a cup of dough or half a pound of dough and half a cup of water, I can't create the pizza that I'm intended to. And so similarly, we didn't want to shortchange the applications that we felt strongly about. And so we fully funded those investments and are hopeful that in addition to the grant dollars themselves and the technical assistance that we'll provide and the policy work to accompany that, that we'll see the best impact that's achievable through these through these investments.
Larry, to pick up on a couple of your points, I mean, absolutely there is systemic racism at a number of levels in Rhode Island, but some of the folks being impacted by this pandemic are poor, undereducated folks who live in Burrillville. So, it's a broader issue, and you look at the quality of our education across the state, you see major gaps, primarily in the urban corridor, but not exclusively in the urban corridor. Are we just focused on sometimes the wrong issues? Massachusetts' economy is just in a completely different place. 30 years ago, they focused on improving public schools. They are light years ahead of us in every ranking on education. This week announced Apple's producing 20,000 new jobs across the country. North Carolina got a big block of them down in Research Triangle, but also Boston's getting a big block of those jobs. Rhode Island's not getting any of those jobs unless people are jumping on trains, but that's a shift if somebody's smart down here taking the train up to Boston. Is education really got to be a much bigger focal point? We've spent a lot of time on it here and feel like we're running in quicksand.
Education is certainly an important area, and to your point about the experience of different states looking differently or resulting in different outcomes, we're certainly a thought partner with various state agencies and with the governor's office on how we can continue to improve the relationships and opportunities within our state. So it's not a single issue approach to improving equity or to improving the local economy. As far as education, I think there are a number of things that we know impact educational attainment. Part of what we see in the disparities are created by conditions such as how we invest in our public school infrastructure and in schools, but also the economy, the conditions that our families and youth live in impact their ability to achieve their optimal performance as well. And so we can't achieve better educational outcomes by only focusing on education. And one of the things that I'm excited about our strategic plan is that we look holistically at the community. We look at education, we look at economic mobility, we look at housing, we look at a number of different areas, all of which in combination contribute to improved outcomes for households and communities. And those are the 4 pillars of our strategic plan are what help to build equity across the state. And certainly there are communities outside of the urban corridor that have less than optimal outcomes and experiences as well. But if you look across every sector, whether it's health or education or child well-being, and you look at the data and disaggregate it by race, the outcomes are always worse for people of color as opposed to their white peers, even with socioeconomic status held constant. And so while we're not exclusively focused on race, we have to continue to prioritize racial equity in the other conversations that we're having, because the outcomes that we see aren't by accident. They're as a result of years and years of discriminatory practices and policies, and therefore we have to be proactive in righting those conditions.
The Rhode Island Food Bank came out with a study a few weeks ago about hunger in Rhode Island. It's a record level of hunger. 25% of Rhode Islanders are hungry, don't have basic food needs. Dr. Amy Nunn was on the other day talking that there's 47,000 children on SNAP and don't have enough food. Where are we on, I mean, we're talking about the most basic human needs, and we've got 5% of our population, nearly 50,000 children in Rhode Island who aren't getting enough nutrition.
Yeah, food insecurity continues to be a significant issue, and we saw that exacerbated during the height of the pandemic, which we're by no means out of. But the combination of meeting basic needs in the moment, as we're able to facilitate through our 211 call center and senior and disability services team, we're able to respond to the in the moment needs of families and households, but also taking the long game approach to looking at how do we empower households to be more economically stable and upwardly mobile, so that there's a better starting point for our households to have the purchasing power that's able to be leveraged to access safe, healthy and affordable foods. We're also looking at the infrastructure of our communities and supporting small businesses and nonprofits to not only support their employees, but also to support the communities in which they're located. And so we had an opportunity, fortunately, to partner with the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation in supporting outreach to small businesses, women and minority-owned small businesses, and thinking about how do we support the infrastructure of our neighborhoods and communities in pursuit of upwardly and economically mobile communities. And so it's both looking at the short-term needs, but also the longer-term economic conditions that contribute to stable and economically mobile household and communities that we're taking to hopefully see gains in these areas.
Larry Warner, you get the last word. Tell us why this $4.5 million is important and what you're hoping, what the United Way is hoping the impact will be.
We're excited, and this round of grants is important because the $4.5 million investment this year and next year is the first major investment under our Live United 2025 strategic plan, and under which we're committed to building racial equity and opportunities for all Rhode Islanders. We'll have additional funding opportunities announced in the coming months, and look forward to working collaboratively with our nonprofit partners in the execution of their work. And we hope to see progress towards the goals under our strategic plan, to see reductions and elimination of disparities over time. But we also know that this is a long game, and it has taken a long time for us to get to where we are and see the disparities that exist in our community. And so United Way has been here for 95, coming up on 96 years, and we look forward to being here for the duration in partnership with our community and our nonprofit partners to improve the conditions, address the root causes of systemic or disparities that are caused by systemic racism. And so we're committed to the work, we're committed to our partners, committed to working with the community, with the state, and with other funders to achieve racial equity and opportunities for all Rhode Islanders in the years ahead.
Larry Warner from United Way of Rhode Island, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have a full write-up with all the links, the organizations to receive funding, et cetera. Everybody stay tuned for much more on GoLocal. Also, please wear your mask, get vaccinated. You want a good economy in Rhode Island? The fastest way we can improve the economy is get everybody vaccinated. We can have a great summer. We can welcome tourists into Rhode Island and rebuild our Rhode Island economy. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.